and welcome to the Great at Everything podcast, where we provide awareness, activation, and action plans to help you become great at everything. Everything you are called to and nothing you aren't. I am your host, Maya Wilson, and in this episode, I'll be talking about love and leadership. February is a month of love, so what better time than now to talk about how leadership and love work together to help you increase your influence and impact. First, in case you are not aware, there are different types of love. The first being phileo, which is the love you have towards friends. Then there is storge, which is the love you have towards your family and relatives. There is eros, which is the love you have towards a spouse. And then there is agape, which is the unconditional pure love you have for anyone, even strangers. As a leader, you should have agape love to be the most effective. Why? Because the most effective leaders are unbiased and willing to serve anyone, anywhere, under any conditions. And the other types of love will restrict you from giving fully of yourself in this manner. For clarity, when I speak of leadership, I am talking about the characteristics of a person to effectively lead others, regardless of whether or not the person has a title. Understanding what I mean by leadership is key because if you possess leadership abilities, you are a leader regardless of where you are, what you are doing, or who is around you. Now, you can choose not to use the abilities, but that doesn't remove them from you. So you are still a leader. To excel in every aspect of life, you should definitely be leading in every aspect of life. And that is why these types of leadership are important depending on what aspect you are focusing on. What you do in a certain aspect may change, but you should be showing up daily, hourly, and every minute and second as the strong leader you were created to be, whether you are at home, at work, on the court, on the field, on social media, out shopping, preaching in the pulpit, or even by yourself when no one else sees. With that being said, let's dive into the 7 ways to love and lead those you serve. Number 1 is to love yourself. You have to love you in order to lead authentically. You also need to know your personality and preferences because not all leadership styles are the same. If you are someone who prefers to treat your team as equals, great. If you prefer a more hierarchical approach when working with your team, great. Loving yourself allows you to lead authentically because you will be your true self in the gray areas where there is not a right or wrong, good or bad way to lead. Number 2 is to love each person as a unique individual. When you love each person as an individual, you will become flexible. Believe it or not, it is the responsibility of the leader to adapt to those they serve versus everyone adapting to you. This means that in addition to knowing your personality and preferences and everything else that fits in that gray area, you also need to take into consideration the personality, preferences, and the other traits of those you lead. Instead of treating everyone as a collective unit, or even worse, as if they are the same personality and preference as you get to know those you serve on a personal level. Once you have a sense for each person individually, you are then able to lead them collectively in a manner that works best for everyone. Number 3 is to love communication. I personally believe that you can never have too much communication. And of course, this is when there is effective communication. You will need to make sure you are effectively communicating with those you lead because communication creates clarity and cuts down on confusion. Even in cases where you communicate that you don't know something, you don't have an answer, or you're just checking in because you haven't in a while, this reduces and prevents many of the random stories that people tend to create in their heads based on assumptions. On the other hand, when those you lead are communicating with you, make sure you are taking time to process what is being said. This piece ties with learning and loving each person as an individual because great leaders use love to hear what someone's heart is saying and not necessarily what their words are saying. This will reduce and prevent so many misunderstandings because of the relationship you have with the person rather than the misinterpretation or the assumption made based on what was communicated. Number 4 is to love transparency. To me, communication and transparency go hand in hand. So it's automatic that you'll need to be a transparent leader in order to lead with love. Transparency allows you to remain authentic with those you lead by communicating in a manner that can be taken seriously and with good intent. It's understandable that sometimes leaders are in positions where they have to withhold information, and even in those times, your reputation will withstand those moments because those you lead will truly trust that you just could not share rather than you just didn't want to share. Number 5 is to love transformation. This applies to you and those you lead. For you, you must be changing in productive and progressive ways in order to truly develop into who you are created to be. Therefore, be coachable, be proactive about your development, be passionate about your transformation, and be open to getting it wrong a time or two. The same goes for those you lead. In addition to encouraging them to change and grow, be active in their transformation. Create opportunities where you can. Prepare others to take on your role or a similar role and excel in it, and support them when they make mistakes. Remember that the agape love is unconditional, and many times with change and growth comes the not so desirable situations that we sometimes cannot control. That is why the agape love is needed, so you treat the mistake as the mistake and not the person as a mistake. Number 6, love challenges, but see them as opportunities. Many people see obstacles and opposition as challenges, but I call challenges opportunities. For me, it takes the focus off of what is happening to me in the situation and gets me thinking about what is needed out of me to overcome the situation. I once took a facilitation training and there was a wisdom nugget dropped in the training that sticks with me to this day. The nugget was that dysfunction is a plea for help. I'll say that again. Dysfunction is a plea for help. As I thought about it, it started to make sense. When something or someone becomes dysfunctional, regardless of the manner in which it is displayed, it is his or her unique way of saying help. Think about the fancy cars we have now, and anytime you need an oil change, air in the tire, or if it's just not the right time for you to be switching lanes, there's an alert to get your attention. Luckily with cars though, most of the time we know exactly what is needed to help remove the alert. However, the same things happen with people, but we don't get the automatic alert of what is the root cause. That friend of yours who keeps interrupting you during group conversations. That coworker that always falls asleep when you're giving a presentation. That child that has so much energy in class and can't seem to sit still or be quiet. If we identified all of these situations as challenges coming up against us, usually we would try to choose the quickest method of alleviating the stressor, which rarely ever works. However, if we look at these situations as opportunities to help and provide solutions for the root issue, we would be more successful. That friend of a friend really may be dealing with abandonment, and interrupting satisfies the need to have attention. That coworker may be bored and he or she is not really the person that needs to be in the meeting anyway, but because the invite has his or her name, it becomes mandatory in his or her mind to show up. That child may just need a more rigorous curriculum to keep them interested and engaged in the work. Given these new perspectives, I'm sure you would address these situations much differently than you would have previously. Number 7 is to love fun. I probably could have started with this one, but I think many leaders think that seriousness is automatically a part of leadership, and it is not. I haven't researched or studied this extensively, but I think that there is a direct correlation between the amount of love you have and the amount of fun you have. I do know that smiling requires less muscle work, and since fun leads to laughter, fun has to be good for your health. Brian Orm once stated that seriousness is not a fruit of the spirit, and I had to laugh at that because it is so true. Outside of when it is mandatory based on the circumstances, seriousness is a choice, and I would much rather choose fun when I am being given an option. To follow up from the fun point, though, you have to love creativity because this is a major byproduct of fun. Having fun and laughing sparks the creativity juices, so why not enjoy your creative side and encourage those you lead to do the same? Those are the 7 ways to love and lead those you serve. Number 1, love yourself. Number 2, love each person as a unique individual. Number 3, love communication. Number 4, love transparency. Number 5, love transformation. Number 6, love challenges, but see them as opportunities. And number 7, love fun. I hope you're able to take these points and immediately begin to implement them. I simplified them for application in every aspect of life. So even if you have to pick one area and start applying it, then choose it and start today. I love the quote from John C. Maxwell that says, "Everything rises and falls on leadership." I think that is an accurate statement, and if you are able to find your perfect mix of love and leadership, I truly believe that those you lead will do the same. If you are the leader that I think you are and that I know you are, you will want those you lead to also exceed what you are able to do, and I want that for them too. I wanted to do this episode because I think our society would benefit from more love, and I firmly believe that leading with love would solve and prevent many of the world's issues. There are so many causes and protests that could have been prevented if we had taken time to show love and acceptance. And let me be very clear, I am not saying that we have to accept wrong or condone wrong, but I do believe that there are movements now that were created from a place of pain and not being heard. The worst way to offend someone is to not listen. Many may say that not understanding is the greatest root of offense, but you have to be listening or engaged in order for someone to know that you don't agree or you don't understand. Think about yourself. Would you rather have your voice silenced or your opinion unaccepted? I'm sure you would much rather speak freely and share your opinion even if no one can or wants to understand it. Remember that saying of people talking just to hear themselves? It certainly makes sense that we all want to be heard. I think back to the point about approaching challenges as opportunities and getting to the root cause of issues. Many times we may rush to tell someone that they are wrong when love would have you to listen and coach them through the situation so they can recognize the error themselves. Truth is truth, but how you deliver it is what makes you the most impactful in the outcome. So my hope for you receiving all of this information in this episode is that you would see love as a standard for how you lead and not as some soft or weak thing that gets reserved only for intimate relationships. Love causes you to become more selfless, which is a trait you will ascribe to all the unanimously great leaders. So there you have it, 7 ways to love and lead those you serve. I've stated this a few times previously, but I want to state it again. When you operate in the fullness of your divine purpose, you will not only increase your influence and your impact, but also your income. So being able to love and lead those that you serve is one way to step into the fullness of your divine purpose. Until the next episode, don't just be great. Be great at everything you are called to and nothing you aren't.